Heard of him. I heard Harvard-educated, Ironman, MD, and I was like, that's cool, tell me more. And then when I heard him speak, I knew that he was into it. You're going to hear that tonight. He is in the trenches. He speaks all over the world. He's one of the most articulate and passionate men spreading the gift of health. And I think once you, who's not heard David speak? Raise your hand. Who was here for the first time and who has not heard David speak? All right, let's give a hand to the rookies here. So, you ever meet those people and the families that you just look at them like, they're kind of alpha and they kind of like are overachievers? Like that's that guy over there. But the cool thing is he's a man, overachiever with a heart. And I'm going to read to you his bio so that I don't miss up anything. And afterwards, I want you to give him a warm Colorado welcome. Tomorrow he's headed up to Lander, Wyoming. If that doesn't show commitment to spread the gift of health, I don't know what does. His wife, Heidi's in the room. Where's Heidi?
Right in front of you.
Heidi,
down.
Heidi ho, there we go.
Heidi ho.
They're right there, front row. All right, so David, as I said, Harvard educated, graduated with honors and an all-American swimmer. After graduation, he went to the research lab at Duke, and he was investigating methods of early detection of pancreatic cancer. He received his medical degree from Wright State University School of Medicine, where he finished in the top 1%. Are you at Mensa? Yeah, that's top 2%, so you probably got the game. He graduated prestigious, excuse me, hang on. Who's with me? Where he was elected, okay, he graduated right side of he finished in the top 1% where he was elected to the prestigious National Academic Alpha Omega Alpha Medical Honor Society. I'm sure that's a fun society to be a part of. After practicing as he spent a decade, here's the punchline. He spent a decade in the trenches in emergency room medicine. But after a decade, he kind of realized that treating disease, maybe he wanted to see another side of what life was all about, and he gravitated towards kind of the prevention side, adopting a healthy lifestyle, which you're going to hear about. As a result of kind of that transition and that aha moment, he kind of took his academic background, his athletic background, and he shifted his focus to the field of preventative medicine. He's written numerous articles on the importance that nutrition plays in overall health, and particularly athletic performance, which is near and dear to my heart. Dr. Phillips has competed in many triathlons over the last several years, and he competed in the St. Croix Half Marathon, which qualified him for the Super Bowl, which is the Ironman World Championships in Kona. Dr. Phillips lectures, as I said, around the world to thousands, and his passion he shares around healthy living to people. How am I doing? They told me to read this. I'm like, you sure you want me to read this? His wife's Heidi, and she's also a triathlete. That's where they met. I'm not going to steal the punchline on that one. But they're also featured in our One Simple Change videos. They are probably the most important thing in this whole bio is they are proud parents of 3 athletic boys, 2 of which are in graduate school, and 1 who is currently attending the United States Military Academy at West Point. Please give Heidi and give Dr. Phillips a warm Colorado welcome.
All right, Jeff, am I on? No. You're on. All right, I'm good. I love it when Jeff introduces me. You never know what you're going to get. And he always does a great job. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. How you guys doing?
Good.
You know that Denver, you guys know this, I've been doing this for 10 years. You know that Denver is one of my favorite places to speak. Yeah! I mean, you guys have the best energy. It's so much fun to be here. And I started off last night in Colorado Springs. And many of you don't know I grew up at the Academy, the Air Force Academy, because my dad taught there in the 60s. So I spent a few years there, which kind of dates me, I know that at this point. But I love going there, and then of course, every time I'm in Colorado Springs, I have to do that Manitou incline thing. I mean, it's just a bunch of steps. Oh my God, why do we keep doing that? So I'll just be stepping across the stage like this tonight. No, but the energy here is great. I love you guys, and I apologize if my voice is a little down. I spoke, some of you know I spoke in front of 7,000 people last week on a Thursday night, and then I spoke to probably 7,000 people after that for the next 3 days, so my voice is kind of hanging on here, but that isn't going to stop me. This is a great message, and tonight we're really going to talk about lifestyle. And lifestyle is obviously important. How do you feel every day? Do you feel vibrant? Do you feel healthy? Do you feel like you can just tear up the day? Or do you feel tired, worn out, sore, kind of weak? And so lifestyle plays a huge role in that. What we do, how we exercise, and what we eat is really pivotal. And what I'm going to do is talk about some of the science behind that. And then we're going to talk about supplementing our bodies with whole food nutrition. Because frankly today, it's almost mandatory. Our soils are depleted of nutrients. We're really not getting the nutrients we should be getting from the produce that we buy in the stores. And so supplementing our diets with whole food nutrition is hugely important, but not just any old whole food nutrition. We're talking about whole food nutrition that's based in a huge body of research and a huge body of science. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to marry the two. I'm going to tie up, bring together our lifestyle and whole food nutrition and supplementation. I'm going to tell you just a few of the thousands of stories I've heard over the years of traveling internationally, how impactful pairing up lifestyle changes with whole food nutrition, what impact that can have in human physiology. And this is a fairly new lecture. Again, I've been doing this for 10 years. Every couple of years, I change up my lecture to stay current with current research. And this is actually my favorite lecture. It's been my experience over the last 10 years that as a physician, there's just a huge disconnect between lifestyle, what we eat and how we move, and all these chronic disease conditions that you hear about. And particularly in medical school, in medical school, we're really not trained to anything about prevention. We're trained to look for a disease, and then when you find that disease, you either cut it out or you treat it with medication. And while we have a really good medical system, it's a system that's kind of broken. And it's a system that's really designed to take care of you when you're really sick. And the whole idea behind this lecture is to really empower you with the knowledge and the confidence of knowing that you can prevent yourself from undergoing the apple or the scalpel. You want to take the apple, you don't want the scalpel, right? And that's the whole idea. So, avoiding the hospital, avoiding operations, avoiding disease is the whole premise behind this talk. So that's why I've entitled it Apple, Scalpel, the lifestyle disease connection, or stuff they just don't teach you in med school. And I always start off by talking about the Okinawan population. Because they're long considered to be some of the healthiest individuals in the world. They live an average lifespan of at least 81 years, and I believe it's like some 50 years into this study now. And what the researchers have found out is that only about 1/3 of their longevity can be attributed to their genetics or their genes. Okay, but it's their lifestyle. Okay, it's their active lifestyle and what they eat that accounts for about 2/3 of their life expectancy. The key to healthy aging is maintaining healthy lifelong weight through diet and exercise. But what I think is significant about this entire study is that it really does prove that our lifestyle can trump our genetic inheritance. Woo! I feel like I need to qualify this slide right here. So many of you know that I have actually had this quote in my lecture for years. It will never be the same again. So I just decided to do that. Actually, I'm very apolitical, but I just couldn't help myself. But it's interesting to see how this plays out, and depending on what part of the country I'm lecturing in. Sometimes I get a laugh, and sometimes it was really quiet. But anyway, it's true, our lifestyle can trump our genetic inheritance. We don't have to be victims of the genes that we inherited from our parents and their parents and their parents. Simply by engaging in a healthy lifestyle, you can turn good genes on and bad genes off. And that's not only good for you, but they've actually shown that you can pass those genetic traits up to 2 to 3 generations beyond you. Okay, so think about this, particularly people who are in childbearing age. Simply by engaging in a healthy lifestyle today, you can potentially impact your family's past generations of chronic disease conditions, perhaps eradicating them for your future family's generations to come. Just because great-grandma had breast cancer, and grandma had breast cancer, and mom had breast cancer, does not mean that you're destined to get that cancer, okay? Because we know through the study of something called epigenetics that exercising and eating properly will turn good genes on and bad genes off. We're not victims of the genes that we inherited at all. You can actually modulate those epigenetic markers. And so we know that the two big pillars of health are exercising and eating properly. And when I talk about exercising, I don't care what you do, you just need to move. Okay, because now they do a lot of the research that sitting more than 4 hours or leading a sedentary lifestyle is equivalent to smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Wow. The health detriments of not moving are the same issues as smoking a pack of cigarettes. So you do need to move. And it's kind of that magic 4 hours that you need to get up and move. Again, 50% increased risk of death from any cause, 125% increased risk of cardiovascular disease. So our bodies were meant to move. Okay? God gave us 2 legs for a reason. You got to use them. Okay? You got to use them. And again, exercise is so powerful. This is just hot off the presses. I think it was published like a month or 2 ago. And researchers in Canada looked at over 60 studies on lifestyle and breast cancer. And when they studied all this data, one of the big conclusions they came to was that of all the lifestyle factors, physical activity has the most robust effect on breast cancer outcomes. Okay, so in preventing breast cancer, and if you have breast cancer, preventing the recurrence, exercise, big time. Okay, big time, huge. But the bottom line is, you can't compete with what you eat. It's true, you cannot out-exercise a bad diet. People go to the gym and work out for 2 hours and then you go down to McDonald's or whatever. That ain't gonna cut it. You just cannot out-exercise a bad diet. So exercise is huge. But again, diets are important. And when I talk about diets, and this is where we're gonna spend the bulk of our time on. When I talk about healthy diets, and you've heard it for years, diets that are rich in plants, rich in fruits and veggies. And again, I'm not here to tell you that everybody needs to be a vegan and you need to go walk around eating bark off of trees all day, okay? I'm not here to tell you that. But we do know that through the research that the more plants that you put on your plate, the healthier you're gonna be, okay? The more you do. And again, it's that combination of exercise and eating properly, and diets that are loaded up with plants, that has been found to be responsible for reducing a lot of the chronic disease conditions, that you hear about, that you read about, that maybe your families are afflicted with. And I've highlighted a few of these in red, and perhaps maybe you struggle with this, or you know people who struggle with things like asthma, or cancer, heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, MS, rheumatoid arthritis. All of these diseases actually, every single one of them actually have one common denominator that links them all together, and that's something called oxidative stress. So I want to spend just a couple of minutes explaining this to you because it's kind of cutting edge stuff in medicine today. So when we talk about oxidative stress, we talk about oxygen. And similar to when you cut an apple in half and you leave that apple exposed to room air or oxygen, what happens to the apple over a period of time? Well, it becomes brown, it becomes oxidized, it ages quicker. Well, a parallel process is actually going on inside of our bodies as we take in oxygen. While we need it, it can act as a double-edged sword in producing these things called free radicals that can do damage to the body. Another way of looking at oxidative stress is comparing it to a car engine. A car engine utilizes gasoline to combust and make a usable form of energy to make that car run. But out of that external combustion comes a toxic byproduct in the form of exhaust. Well, our body's engines are called mitochondria. And it's these ovoid organelles that exist inside the cells of our bodies. These are the powerhouses of our body. This is where energy from the food that you eat, combined with the oxygen that you breathe in, goes into making a usable form of energy to make your body run, and that's something called ATP. You guys remember that from biology. You do remember that from biology. Good, I'm glad we're all on the same page. But you know what, this is not an airtight process. Not all those molecules are utilizing the production of energy in the form of ATP. So what happens is that you end up with this spillover effect of these highly charged reactive oxygen species, otherwise known as free radicals. And you guys have heard of that, right? Well, these free radicals, if they're not effectively neutralized, can very quickly escape from the mitochondria. And then they begin to do damage to our nearby healthy cells, silently. Free radicals can attack the membranes that surround our cells and tissues. They can attack the proteins inside of our bodies. Free radicals can attack our DNA, our genetic material. And real importantly, whether you're just getting up and going to work, all the way up to the elite athlete, cumulatively over a period of time, if free radicals are not effectively neutralized, they'll begin to attack the very mitochondria that formed them. And the reason that's important is because mitochondria do not have the ability to effectively repair themselves from that kind of damage, similar to other cells inside of our bodies. And so cumulative damage to your mitochondria will begin to shut down your mitochondria. And the reason that's important is because those are your energy producers. Okay, right? And loss of energy production is going to affect you. Again, whether you're just getting up going to work, all the way up to the elite athlete. Okay, and this is a cumulative process. The research shows that this kind of damage can take years and years and years to manifest itself in actual disease processes. Think about it for a minute. But think about this. You know, how many people do you know that are too tired to perform even the most basic tasks of daily life? You know, maybe perhaps you struggle with this, and you know people who struggle with getting through the day. You know, you wake up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you have all this energy, by 1 or 2 o'clock, game over. You know, and that doesn't have to be any of us by any stretch of the imagination. So neutralizing this byproduct of our daily metabolism is important to do so, and we can do so because we all come equipped with it. We're all born with this complex internal enzymatic and non-enzymatic cascade that acts as a frontline defense system in attempting to neutralize all these free radicals. And you guys know that this is like a favorite part of my lecture. It is me looking at you, looking at that. Especially the new people. I love it, man. It's like, don't go there. I won't go there. I have to go back to biochemistry to remember this stuff anyway. But the reason I put this up is that even though we all come equipped with a system, an internal antioxidant system that tries to neutralize these free radicals, the system that we're born with cannot function by itself. It will, the research shows it will eventually fail on its own, unless it's properly fortified. And we fortify this system, well, it's through our diets, but it's specifically diets that are rich in fruits and veggies, and specifically the rainbow of colors. You know, the reds, the greens, the purples, the yellows. Because inside of those colorful pigments exist these very powerful plant chemicals called phytonutrients. And what I mean by phytonutrients is basically plant-based nutrition. You know, it's thousands and thousands of powerful antioxidant substances found in all the fruits and veggies, and this is the key. All those plant nutrients are working together synergistically in small amounts to be extremely powerful in the human body. So we know we need to be eating tons of fruits and veggies. Question is how many? Based on, just within the last year and a half, based on the most current epidemiological and observation studies, it's now recommended that we should be consuming 7 to 13 servings of fruits and veggies every day. Okay, and the serving's roughly the size of your fist. And I scroll up that every day. Okay, it's just now a couple days a week you get that amount. That's 7 days a week. That's every single day for the rest of your life. Okay, and now I'm in Denver, so I'm in like health city of the world. So I got a lot of athletes out there. You're my crowd. I love you guys. But listen to this. If you're an athlete, there's somebody who exercises vigorously. And I have a whole other lecture I do just on athletes in this subject. But based on doing some studies and research, individuals who approximate 60 to 90 minutes or more of physical activity cumulatively within a 24-hour period, this is how many fruits and veggies you should be eating every single day. Wow. It's based on a formula. I'm not making it up. So good luck with that one. So forget 16 to 18. Go back to 7 to 13 servings. Think about this. Unless you get that quantity, 7 to 13 servings, unless you get that quantity in your diet each and every day, and just as important as the quantity is the quality. You know, over the years, I have spoken to thousands of vegans, thousands of vegetarians, you know, thousands of people who juice, and that's all, you know, healthy living, right? But you know, take for instance people who juice. While that's healthy, people who juice typically juice the same 5, 6, 7, 8 things. Okay, it's the rainbow of color, the variety, that's just as important as the quantity. So unless you get that quality and quantity in your diet each and every day, for almost every single one of us, me included, at one point or another, there's going to exist some form of a gap in our nutrition. And the traditional way we've been trying to narrow or bridge that gap has been through the consumption of all these synthetic, isolated laboratory-made vitamins or multivitamins that we see everywhere on counters today. Okay? And that's kind of how we all grew up. But study out just within the last few years, study after study after study, large, hundreds of thousands of participants in these studies are finding out that taking these isolated vitamins, like vitamin C or vitamin E, or taking a multivitamin, well, not only do they have little to no impact in human physiology, but in some instances, they're actually doing more harm than good. You know, and again, it sounds counterintuitive, I know, Because we grew up thinking vitamins are healthy for you. And I mean, you just looking at the word vitamin, you think it's going to be healthy for you. But you know what, for the most part in this country, we really don't have isolated vitamin deficiency so much anymore. What we really have a deficiency of is getting more whole raw produce into our bodies. Get those vitamins and minerals, but all of the other plant chemicals in addition to that. And in fact, neither the American Heart Association nor the American Institute for Cancer Research recommend vitamin supplements to reduce cardiovascular disease or cancer. But what they do recommend is, right from their websites, is get those nutrients from plants. Put more produce into your body. And again, for athletes, I pulled this over and I started talking about this. Jeff probably remembers, I started talking about this way back in 2007 when there were some really early pilot studies looking at vitamin supplementation and exercise performance. And pilot studies typically aren't well designed, but I need to raise a red flag. Well, this one was just published just a few years ago. This is a very large, well-designed, randomized controlled trial where they're finding out that athletes that are taking these synthetic vitamins like vitamin C, like Emergency, or vitamin E, well, they're finding out that these synthetic vitamins are mechanistically shutting down the adaptive responses to exercise, ultimately leading to a decrease in training efficiency. Okay, so they're actually hampering the beneficial adaptations that you should be getting from exercise. Okay, again, it sounds crazy, but you'll hear my story here in a little bit as it totally relates to that. So the bottom line is nature knows best. What we have in nature is far superior to any man-made vitamin supplement produced in laboratories today. And if you take a look at an apple, good example of this. An apple alone has well over some 10,000 phytonutrients, and 850 of which have already been named and identified. So follow me with the logic on this, because this is important to understand. That now with over 12,500 phytonutrients that have already been named and identified in all the fruits and veggies around us, which of all of those plant nutrients, okay, are selected by scientists, are removed from the plant source, are taken to a laboratory, or chemically synthesized, and end up in a standard isolated vitamin or multivitamin. So scientists versus Mother Nature is making a determination of which of all those tens of thousands of plant chemicals is the most bioactive. But by doing so, they've extracted that single nutrient from its natural synergistic role that plays with the tens of thousands of other plant chemicals. Another way of looking at this is look at a football team like an offensive line. If you take that quarterback out, okay, he can't function by himself to score, and the offensive line can't function. But all together, okay, they make a unit. That's how you should think about the synergy of nutrients in plants. Don't just select a few out of there. So the bottom line is, based on all the studies and the research we know, it makes a whole heck of a lot more sense to be bridging the gap with whole food sources that contain your vitamins and minerals, but way beyond, you know, the 13 some odd vitamins that we know about. It's the tens of thousands of other plant chemicals that you get from plants, the carotenoids, the polyphenols, the flavonoids that you do not see in a multivitamin. All those nutrients working together synergistically. So bridge the gap with food makes more sense than bridging the gap with what I call no food, which I just described, which is these isolated, you know, vitamins that simply lack the powerful synergy in the human body. And so just as a gym or a fitness facility provides equipment for us to get physically fit, there's a product on the market today that literally thousands of healthcare providers around the world recommend to get nutritionally fit, or what I like saying is getting fit at a cellular level. And the product that I've been taking and recommending is called Juice Plus. And the reason this one stands way above anything else on the market today is because of the research. And I'm kind of a geek when it comes to research. I like numbers, I like data, and that's what they've got a ton of. I mean, it's by far the most thoroughly researched brand name nutritional product on the market today. So let's just talk about it just for a second, because I know there's some of you out there that are like me, you want to know some of this stuff. So Juice Plus is backed. I get really geeked on this, so I'm sorry. But Juice Plus is backed by years and years and years of independent third-party research, which means that the company provides the product to the research institution, and then they step back and they wait for the result of that study, either good or bad. So the product is removed from the auspices of the potential bias of a company doing research on its own product. It's taken to a third-party institution to remove that inherent bias. And then when the study's done, it's submitted to peer-reviewed journals for publication. These journals have a peer review board. I sat on one for a few years. They're typically made up of MDs, PhDs, and other scientists. And you basically scrutinize that study before you accept it for publication. You know, you look at the methodology of the study. You look at the design of the study. And if it was done properly, you accept it and publish it in your journal. If not, you turf it back out to be redone. And that's another layer of scrutiny the company puts the product through, which is a peer review screen, a peer review process. And the great majority of these studies that are published adhere to what's called gold standard research, which is randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. That's top-tier research. That's the kind of research that I look for in my medical journals for legitimacy. And I don't know about you guys, but it just seems like every other day there's like a new nutritional supplement that's popped up on the market today. It's like the wild, wild west out there. And since I've been doing this 10 years, people have gotten access to my emails and Facebook, and I get hit up all the time. But what do you think about this one that just came up in Australia or New Zealand or wherever it is? And for me, it's simple. I just cut through all the veneer. And I cut through the fancy packaging and fancy marketing materials, all the paid endorsed athletes, the testimonies, and I go straight to the research tab. Because you really want to know what that's going to do to your body, way beyond a testimonial. And it's amazing to me that in all the years that I have been doing this, so many of these products that are on the market today have absolutely zero research. You know, they got a whole boatload of testimonials, but no research to back up those testimonials. And a lot of these companies that say they have research, because I kind of know what to look for, well, a lot of these companies actually pay the journal to get their study published. They buy their way into getting published. And that is the fundamental difference between the research done on Juice Plus and all of these other nutritional products that are on the market today. Because I can tell you, there's absolutely no way in the world you can pay your way into getting published in a top pediatric journal in this country. You cannot pay your way into getting published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. You cannot pay your way into getting published into the top sports medicine journal in this country. And that's the fundamental difference between the research done on Juice Plus and all of these others that are on the market today. They do top quality research at top quality institutions and earn the right to be accepted in those publications. So I got to update this. Now that the company actually has now 22 years of research, now 36, just hot off the press, 36 published studies in peer-reviewed journals. It's been studied in 8 countries in 4 continents around the world at really bad universities like Yale. Oh my goodness me. But no, seriously, this was a gotcha moment for me over 10 years ago. Is looking at the institutions that have done research on Juice Plus. Yale, Vanderbilt, Medical University of Graz, MD Anderson Cancer Center. You know, I know these places. These are top-notch institutions in the world that are doing top-quality research on the product. And the company doesn't go to obscure institutions to do its research. They go to the top dogs to get their studies published. And so I'm just going to touch on a little bit of the research as I bring in some of these stories, but overall, in general, there are many others that I didn't put up here, but Juice Plus reduces oxidative stress, the research shows. We talked about that. Reduces systemic inflammation, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Studies show that Juice Plus supports a healthy immune system, is protective of DNA, and that's important because where do cancers get their start? Okay, when your DNA becomes damaged, when it becomes mutated. And so Juice Plus is protective of that, supports cardiovascular wellness, and supports healthy skin and gums. The reason I put this list up is because, honestly, there's not a single drugstore or pharmacy that you could walk into and purchase something, okay, nor is there a prescription that I or any other doctor anywhere in the world that could write for you that in totality would do every single one of those things to your body. Okay, it simply doesn't exist. And I've been doing it long enough to know. That's the script I'd write for you. Salad bar and a capsule. So that's essentially what that is, concentrated nutrients. So I threw this in from my presentation last week. This is the most recent study on Juice Plus. This is a groundbreaker in the nutritional world. Okay, in this particular study, they found that Juice Plus given to the individuals in this study compared to the placebo group actually altered their genetic expression, their epigenomes. Remember I talked about in the beginning of the lecture how eating and exercising can flip good genes and bad genes on and off? This study showed that Juice Plus actually, the genetic analysis revealed the expression of over 1,600 genes were positively altered. And these genes had to do with signaling pathways for inflammation, signaling pathways for cholesterol production. This is the first time that a concentrated food nutrient has ever been shown to do this. Okay, and this is the wave of the future. So I'm really, really excited about it. And it's detailed. I mean, it's complicated. It's over 22 pages of analysis. So, but the bottom line is, Juice Plus is concentrated food. 30 different fruits, veggies, and berries in capsules. And I challenge you to get that rainbow of color, okay, that rainbow of color in your diet each and every day because it's a capsule and it comes in a bottle. It's not a vitamin supplement. Okay, you do get your vitamins and minerals, but you're getting them from the plant source. The form in which our bodies were meant to recognize and utilize. But like I've said before, way beyond the 13 some odd vitamins we know about, minerals, It's the tens of thousands of other plant chemicals that you get from eating things like bilberry. I mean, who goes around eating bilberry all day? Seriously. A few of you, of course. I know. There's always a few of you guys out in the crowd. But most people don't go around. And the reason I say that is because, you know, they're loaded up with flavonoids, things that are beneficial to cardiovascular health, the carotenoids, polyphenols. They're just huge, and that's what you get from concentrated food. That's what you get in Juice Plus. And because I cannot mention competing products in my lecture, I'll let you figure out who that is. So I was curious, and I did this slide like 10 years ago, and it just went viral worldwide when I did it. But it's so true. I was curious, and still is true today, is what is in a popular children's vitamin supplement or gummy?
Sugar.
You know, well, beyond that, take a look at this. It blew me away. You go to the websites to find out what's inside of these products, and to try to find out what the ingredients are is next to impossible. I mean, you got to go through Wilma and Barney. And look at what we give our kids. Again, multiple artificial sweeteners, multiple artificial colors and dyes, hydrogenated oils, all these synthetic laboratory-made vitamins and minerals, and a warning label. Okay, a warning label. Now, Juice Plus has chewables, not only for kids, but adults. And in the chewables, it's just fruits and veggies, but with none of that other stuff. No artificial sweeteners, colors, dyes, no hydrogenated oils. And you know what? There's a warning on the back of the chewables that says, keep out of reach of children so they don't eat the whole bag. Okay, that is a Ziploc bag, not a safety cap. Okay, a kid can sit down and eat an entire bag of those and not die. But they'll be on the pot for about 2 or 3 weeks. Hear it all the time. But, you know, seriously, if your child sits down and eats just a fraction of that bottle over there on the left, oh, you do have a big problem. You know, you got to call poison control, because you know what? They eat just a fraction of that bottle, and they can die. Okay, and that is the difference. Think about this for a minute. That's the point I'm trying to make. That's the difference between chemicals on the left and food on the right. What would you be rather giving your family? It's pretty obvious. Okay. So this should help you. It's yabba dabba don't versus yabba dabba don't. And if you don't know who this is at this point, I can't help you. So head to the bar and get another glass of wine. And so this is an awesome program the company has. This is a children's health study. It's now actually the largest children's observational study in the entire world. They're approaching like 1 million participants, some close to 300,000 of which have already finished the program. And what it is that a child anywhere from the age of 4 up to and through a full-time college student can get Juice Plus for free for up to 4 years with an adult sponsor. You know, you just fill out an occasional questionnaire. And the results that are coming back in the kids that have finished this program is remarkable. And these kids that have finished the program are having far fewer days where they're sick, they're not missing school, they're not seeing their pediatrician as often. You know, the offices are calling and say, we haven't seen little Johnny in like a year. Like, yeah, you're right, he's healthy. Okay? They're actually craving more fruits and veggies in their diet, and they're not craving the sugary sweets that they used to. So their taste buds are basically being reprogrammed in a healthy way. So if you're not familiar with this program, please get with the person who invited you, because it's like a buy one, get one free, kind of a no-brainer. And the company has really put an awful lot of money into this program to try to help kids around the world get healthy. And that's what they're accomplishing. Then I want to talk about the Complete Shape Mix, another product. And I consider this clean burning fuel, not just for athletes, but everybody in general. It's completely plant-based. The primary plant protein is non-GMO water-washed soy, which retains the whole soy. It's got lots of good fiber, gluten-free, no fats, no cholesterol, non-dairy, no coloring, preservatives, low glycemic, and 100% vegan. Now, when I mention the word soy, everybody's antennas go up. You know, my doctor says I can't. My naturopath says stay away. Well, there is a fundamental difference between non-genetically modified water-washed soy, which retains the whole soy and doesn't fractionate it, and all of the highly fractionated, highly processed soy on the market, of which there are issues. And in fact, it is so safe that the nutritionists from the American Cancer Society and the American Institute for Cancer Research deem it to be safe. Okay? And if it was ever an issue, MD Anderson Cancer Center, which is one of the leading cancer research institutions in the entire world, they actually used the complete and study of their ovarian cancer patients. Okay? And that study has already been completed, has already been published. They were so blown away by the positive results that their ovarian cancer patients got that they're now doing a follow-up study. Okay, so soy itself is completely safe. It's how it's processed that can mess it up. And if you retain it through a water wash process, it's absolutely completely safe. And then I also mentioned that the complete shake is low glycemic. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you eat a low glycemic food, it doesn't cause a big sugar spike, and then you have this big insulin spike, right? And then that subsequent crash and burn. And so the complete shake mix is actually low glycemic. And that ties into this story, okay? This is, those of you last week saw this. This is little Avery. And Avery is the daughter of a friend of ours. They live in Colorado Springs. We just saw him yesterday. And unfortunately, Avery is a very brittle juvenile diabetic. And her mom is this doubly boarded Ivy League nutrition guru who spent years looking for healthy shakes or snacks to be able to give her daughter that doesn't cause this big sugar spike, and then she's got to tinker around with her insulin pump. And so we introduced them to Juice Plus about like 3 or 4 years ago. And every time we see her mom, Avery, craves the shakes every single day. But her mom has reported to us that not only does she crave them, but she's able to lower by 1/3 the amount of insulin that she used to have to give her on other traditional shakes that are on the market today. And that is because of the quality of the fiber that's in the complete shake mix. It allows a very slow uptake of carbohydrates into the bloodstream, not causing that big sugar spike and then that big insulin spike as well. And so this is little Avery today, as of yesterday. But and then the other product I want to mention, this is a company that has a very limited, like 5 products. When we go an inch wide and a mile deep on studying products, you're never going to see this company sell toilet paper or household goods or any of that stuff. Okay, it's all about plants. And this is she's standing next to the Tower Garden, which is, I didn't know we were going to have one here tonight. This is pretty cool. It's got a completely contained sealed aeroponic gardening system. It has 30% higher yield in produce than a traditional in-ground organic garden. And far fewer resources because it's a closed loop system. Less nutrients, less water, less resources. So very, very cool system. So check it out after you're done, because it's really, that's kind of the wave of the future, is taking control of our own health. Again, taking control of what you grow and what you put in your body. And so this is little Avery. So Avery now is an avid cyclist here in Colorado. And you know what, guys? She's taken podium spots away from kids that don't have disease. I mean, it's amazing. She's like incredibly powerful. And the parents are asking her mom, like, what are you doing? And the bottom line is, she's optimizing her physiology every single day with plants. Okay, she's providing what her body needs to function even with diabetes. So Juice Plus, basically, think of it as bridging the gap. It bridges the gap between the reality of what we eat on a daily basis, whether it's good or not, and a more optimal amount of whole food-based nutrition that provides a rich pool of antioxidants and phytonutrients from which our bodies are designed and knows exactly what to do to contribute to ideal health. But this is what I think is great, is that for about the price of a cup of coffee, you get up to almost 50 different kinds of plants circulating around in your body every day. 50 different kinds of plants coursing through your veins every day for about the price of a cup of coffee. Okay, so what is your health worth to you? Okay, think about that for a minute. And I wanted to insert this in here from last week. This is a brand new product the company is now doing a graded launch worldwide. It's a completely plant-based omega supplement. It has your omega, you go ahead, I love it. One of a kind, it's completely plant-based. They don't derive the oils from fish, of which there's a lot of issues, but they go right to what the fish eat, and it's algae. Okay, but beyond that, they also cold press plant seeds from things like tomato seeds, pomegranate, etc. But again, it contains the whole spectrum of omegas, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. And each of those omegas has a specific role, beneficial role in the human body, decreasing inflammation, improving skin health. I mean, I just turned 85 the other day. I love this product. It's amazing. But seriously, things like it does skin health, cognitive functioning, all of these things you hear about omegas. And this is really cool because it's completely plant-based, and it really is awesome. It really is awesome. And the company, in tradition of this company, yes, they're going to be doing a ton of research on this too, okay, to really show how good it is. Okay, so sorry this guy's not live anymore. He's like one of my favorite actors, Gene Wilder. So I'm going to pivot now, and we're going to talk about some stories. And you know, our research, if you really look at it, and I love our research because I'm kind of a geeky guy, like I said, they're very technical. And we're talking about, you know, things like p-values and chi-square and statistical analysis and bar graphs and everything. But frankly, it's boring. Okay, when you look at research, it's really boring to read research. But when you can tag that research into stories of what happens to people when they put those nutrients in their body, that's what makes the research come alive. And that's what I want to do now. But before I do that, I want to point this out. Hippocrates was right. Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. What I'm about to tell you, and what you're about to hear about, is a food effect. Okay, not a drug effect. Okay, Juice Plus is not a drug, it's food, it's concentrated food. But when you see some of these stories, you're going to realize how powerful it is when you put nutrients into this body. Every single one of us is going to have a unique, positive experience with it. It's going to be different from one person to the next. And pretty much every disease that we know about in the human body falls under the umbrella of inflammation, chronic inflammation. And this is different than the inflammation that's normal in the human body. Like if you were to get a cut, and that wound, as it heals, becomes inflamed. You know, it gets red, it gets hot, it gets nasty for a little while, and then it heals. That's normal. But when that inflammation goes haywire and becomes this low-level, smoldering, you know, systemic inflammation, and now link that to all these chronic disease conditions, this is still really, really short list. And so this is Shada. Shada is a pharmacist in the Tucson, Arizona area. And she suffered for years with debilitating foot pain, bilateral foot pain, to the point where she would have to take ice packs or cool packs to work, to stand on, just to get through the day. And so when I had a conversation with her, I got access to her medical records. And looking through medical records is pretty amazing, because during this period of time that she was being treated in the medical system, from 2012 to 2015, during that period of time, she saw over 20 healthcare providers. She had multiple differential diagnoses, from bulging disc to Lyme's disease, adrenal fatigue, stress fractures, thousands and thousands of dollars of diagnostic tests trying to figure out what was causing her foot pain, and thousands of dollars of medications and things to try to get rid of her pain. And in fact, she sent me a picture of her closet. That's what her closet used to look like. Okay, tons of pills, tons of splints and things to try to get her remedied. And you know, the mere suggestion to her physicians that concentrated nutrients, fruits and veggies and capsules, would have an effect, a positive effect in her body, was met with this. And again, I'm not knocking on the medical profession, because I'm one of them, okay? But again, like I told you in the beginning, we're not taught the connection between nutrition and disease. Okay, they thought she was crazy. But we did start Shada on Juice Plus, and it just so happened that she started in July of 2015. It just so happened that she was getting blood work done before she started. And so this was some of her blood work before she started Juice Plus. She was diabetic, and she had a pretty ugly lipid profile here. After being on Juice Plus just a few months, she had a blood redraw, and those numbers actually started to correct themselves. Okay, but more than anything else, during that entire period of time, her foot pain slowly disappeared, to the point where she has no foot pain anymore. And she suffered with that for years. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to say, you know, throw down your crutches, you're healed, you can walk again. I am not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. You know, it's not a miracle cure for anything, it's food. But again, if you put nutrients, this is an incredible machine we've been given. If you put the nutrients in, that your body's going to figure out what to do with it. Okay? But bottom line is that her story would be nothing more than a testimonial if it wasn't backed by science. And the research on Juice Plus shows, multiple studies show that Juice Plus reduces inflammatory markers. Okay, things like monocyte chemotactic protein, macrophage inflammatory protein, RANTS, which is this huge acronym for an inflammatory molecule I can't even pronounce, and a reduction in tumor necrosis factor alpha. Folks, these are hardcore inflammatory markers that are decreased in people who took Juice Plus compared to the placebo groups. Okay, so what happened to Shada is backed by the science. Okay, science backs her story. So here's another good story. This is Becca. And Becca had a really rare disease called Takayasu's arteritis. And what that is an inflammatory condition of the large vessels that come out of the heart. And so after discussing it and having a discussion with her, we talked about what happened in her treatment plan. So she was diagnosed at the end of 2011. They started medical treatment on her to try to decrease the inflammation. So she was started on some pretty toxic drugs. High-dose steroids, methotrexate, azathioprine. Well, unfortunately, and she was started in April of 2012. So because she had such an inflammatory condition in November of that year, she ended up having 2 massive strokes. So the medical treatment wasn't working. They decided to do open heart surgery on her and bypass those vessels to get circulation to the rest of her body. So she had open heart surgery in February 2013, but because she was on so many medications, so many drugs and immunosuppressants, she developed histoplasmosis, fungal infection in her lungs that disseminated throughout her body. So she was septic with histoplasmosis and had about a 70% mortality rate. They were basically calling in family. She was going to be put on a ventilator, and things weren't looking good. And so people wanted to know, and I wanted to know in her story, at what point did juice plus actually come in her story? Well, it actually came in right in the beginning, okay, when she was diagnosed. And again, people are like, well, why didn't that, help with her condition? Again, I'm not here to say this is a miracle. Okay, some diseases are extremely hardwired, right? But what it did is it was an incredible recovery that she had, because she had 2 massive strokes to the point at which she had to learn to read again, write again, walk again. To this day, she has absolutely no residual deficits. None. 0. Now, she had open heart surgery. So her cardiovascular surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic said, unfortunately, because you've got this disease, that you're going to be on medications the rest of your life. And you will be, unfortunately, you can't have children because it's going to be too stressful on your heart. So we'll come back to that in a minute. And that fungal septicemia, well, she ended up not going on a ventilator. She had no kidney damage, and the reason I say it is because one of the drugs they give you, it's called amphotericin B,